Where is your headphones?
Where's my headphones? I never wear headphones.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
always, I always go, I always
solo.
raw dog it without no headphones.
I love that. I think raw dogging is one of my favorite, new terms that like this generation introduced us. They don't have that many like cool sayings, but this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I think the other appropriate use would be like when people go on flights and they're like, oh, the guy like raw dogged a 14-hour flights of Malaysia or something, and he's just like,
You just gonna sit there staring at the back of the seat?
That's crazy to
sitting
me.
there. I don't know how people do it.
I will fall asleep. I can't stay awake if I'm not doing anything in a long haul flight. Can you?
No, I need to be entertained. That's why we talk on a weekly basis. Like I just need to be entertained.
You're such a child, but you're not going to be a child anymore. It's your birthday coming up.
Oh my
So
God, please do not remind me, but also send me birthday wishes, send me birthday presents. I'll put my Venmo on the screen after the episode. You guys can send me money.
somebody send this guy money. While we're talking about money, I have something to tell you.
Ooh, I like this segue.
Uh, yeah, maybe it's like a curveball. I don't know, but I feel like who is the smartest owner in European soccer football right now?
I don't know. I think it depends. How do you define being smart? Is it how you're spending money? Is it, efficient transfers and those things? Is it success on the field? Like, what are we talking about here?
I feel like return on investment. Like you bought it cheap or you bought it at a great price and you know that the price is always going to go up because I feel like in European soccer and we've seen many examples of that, winning is not necessarily what raises the value of a team. And look at Manchester United. You don't have to win to be the most valuable sports franchise in the world. So in that sense, who do you think the smartest owner in European football?
If it's not based on winning, I don't know. You can look at some guys like Todd Boehly at Chelsea, Stan Kroenke at Arsenal. Like these guys are putting in a ton of investment into their clubs. And yes, Chelsea won the Club World Cup. We all know all about that. They now have the patch on their kits, and they're very excited. They don't have a front of kit sponsor, but they have the Club World Cup patch. So they're excited about that. But yeah, I think maybe those are two. Arsenal's kind of come from nowhere in recent years, and again, everyone knocks on them for not having any trophies recently, but like they were runner up in the Premier League and they gave it a good run, and
Yeah.
they're a contender these days. So, but those guys are pumping a lot of money into those clubs.
True. I think of like, AC Milan, obviously Jerry Cardinale. He bought one of the most iconic brands in football, and he only bought it for around 1 billion. I feel like that's a great investment. The only way is up. Think about what he can do with that team. I mean, it has a global audience. They have really good stars. I mean, now they have even Modric. We saw him being introduced on Sunday. Stadium was full. Even though they don't own the stadium, they actually are monetizing it pretty efficiently. There's hope that they may have their stadium, which, I mean, it's hard in Italy to plan these things. But I feel like, I think that's like what I wanted to talk about today with you. Like we can argue about who has the smartest. I think only time will tell.
Yeah, listen, we can argue all day long about who's the smartest, but I think the bigger story and trend that we should really talk about is American owners coming into the European game. Is this good? Is it bad? How do they really find that authentic connection with these clubs and these communities that have been around a lot longer than probably America has been around? So I think this is a big hot topic and something we're really going to dive into on this episode of Finance of Football. I'm sports journalist Michael LoRé.
And I'm Asli Pelit, the sports business journalist with The Athletic. And let's dive into Americanization of European football.
It's called soccer.
One of the things that I just want to remind you, because you mentioned Club World Cup, President Trump even thought about changing soccer to football. Remember that? There was like an interview at the, halftime where he clearly said he might even think about doing an executive order for it.
Yeah, I'll still call it soccer, just like I call the Gulf of Mexico, not the Gulf of America or any of the other things that he's doing, that aren't his job to distract for some other things, which I feel is a topic for a different podcast, not this one. Um,
But it will be like so much easier as journalists when you're like actually name something. But anyways, but I feel like US is moving in. That's the most important thing. The name stays, but I think with the European, soccer season kicking off, this is like all we're going to talk about. And I think every day I wake up and I'm thinking like, okay, what is changing in European soccer in addition to FIFA adding new tournaments and, new dates to the calendar? This is what's happening. Like a new billionaire comes in, buys a club. If you want to start in England, Premier League is basically Wall Street with shin pads. I don't know. Like they are all, and look at it. You said Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, who also owns LA Rams. And I feel like at Arsenal, we really see the business of sports mentality that America is so much better at in Europe. Like new stadium, check. Great, marketing department to like, commercialize, both women and the men's team. I mean, their VIP section, as everyone says, it's fabulous. And that's what, you can actually make a lot of money. Man United, we mentioned Glazer family. They were very, early, I think, investors. You mentioned Chelsea with Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital. Liverpool, again, Fenway Sports Group. Crystal Palace with Joshua Harris and David Blitzer. Bill Foley bought Bournemouth. And I feel like I interviewed Bill Foley multiple times. He's a very interesting owner for me because he really doesn't want to change and make it more American. He's very authentic to keep it very much like fans first. He's not going to change the stadium, but he's going to build an amazing training facility. Burnley, West Ham United. And also, I guess we cannot not mention our favorite American owners, maybe in the United States in general, not you and me, Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. I think they were the ones who put that club on the map. And when you pump money, you can see the results. They're going up in the English football pyramid.
2 Hollywood movie stars.
I'm more of a TV star.
Oh.
Aw.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first, just want to clarify, Ryan is Canadian, not American.
Oh.
No, it's all good. It's
Sorry,
all good.
Ryan.
I think in today's day and age, it's easier to name the European clubs that don't have American ownership than the ones that do, because it's in England, it's in Spain, it's in Italy, it's all across the board, you name it. And just looking at the Forbes, soccer valuations here, they come out with the team valuations every year. I know other outlets do, Sportico as well too. Arsenal's 1 year change is 31%. They have a valuation of $3.4 billion, and their revenue was $771 million. Million. So for context, that's number 8 on the list. Real Madrid, again, number 1, $6.75 billion with a revenue over $1.1 billion. So we're talking a lot of money here, and a lot of it is in American hands. And they're coming in, and we saw what Todd Boehly did at Chelsea, where he just said, if we need to sign players, we're going to sign every player. I'll just keep cutting checks, and we'll keep bringing guys in. And Chelsea has a first team, a second team, a third team, a fourth team. They have so many players, but it's paying dividends because they're finding success on the field now.
Here's a very important detail about that. What they did, which was so interesting that I don't think a lot of European clubs were doing until then, they actually bought those players the way they would pay in installments so that their balance sheet relaxes. They made contracts up to like 5-10 years. They're paying these players over the course of, these time periods so that when you look at their yearly balance, sheets, it doesn't really reflect the, hundreds of millions of dollars that they're paying, which is another American specialty that they brought from their experience with Dodgers. Well, when I think, it's important to mention, like, yes, in England has a lot of American owners. think number two is Italy. The Italian league has so many American owners because the price was right. Price was right. You know, it was a great opportunity. And like from Stephen Pagliuca to Kyle Cruz and Duncan Niederhauer, Oak Tree Capital, these guys are already in there and growing the game and turning these brands into global brands. However, in Spain, situation is a little different. You mentioned Real Madrid. You cannot buy Real Madrid, no matter how much money you have, right? There are few that are available. And if they are, it's just, you know, not the big ones. The reason they cannot buy Real Madrid or Barcelona, they are members clubs. There isn't an owner who can sell this club. A lot of decisions are made among the members, and the structure cannot change. So you cannot really sell these clubs, but they can commercialize some of their assets. They really need money to compete at a global level with these billionaires. So they're commercializing their stadium naming rights, you know, they sell players, but no one can buy the club. But in Spain, I think it's important to mention the league, La Liga, its investment deal with CVC, a big Luxembourg-based private equity firm, and they signed this investment deal in 2022 in exchange of a portion of their broadcasting and commercial rights. So that was a way to also, I think, how can we bring the Spanish teams, like, you know, I always say that like raising tides lift all boats. Like you cannot just have 2 teams or 3 teams in order for a league to compete with a Premier League level competition, especially for sponsorship and broadcast rights. You really need to have 6, 7, 8 teams.
Yeah. And I think a good point about the CBC deal isn't, okay, we're just going to cut you this money and you can go out and buy all these amazing players. A very small portion of that is allocated to player transfers. The majority of it is stadiums and infrastructure, it's youth development and facilities and all of these other internationalization, all of these different aspects to help grow the brand almost more than grow the team on the field. And the other thing too is like we didn't mention Germany, because in the Bundesliga they have the 50+1 rule where the fans are the majority owners of these teams, and they shot down external investment, right? CBC, if I'm not mistaken, approached Bundesliga a few years ago and was like, hey, we can do what we're doing in Spain with you guys and help you guys. Some of the clubs were like, yeah, we see value in that. That would be great. And the fans were like, no, like we don't want that. And obviously Bundesliga is growing. They're growing here in the States and in the Americas. There's a huge following in Brazil, which I'm super fascinated about and would love to dive into.
It's really weird given they got their butt kicked in the World Cup in 2014 by Germany, right?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Maybe they're playing the long game, the Brazilians, the fans, or something like that. Or if they're like, you know, can't beat them, join them. But going back to the American owners, I think the thing for them, why this is so appealing, like, yes, we talked over some of these club valuations, and they're super, super expensive. These guys aren't coming in owning, you know, majority ownership and that kind of stuff. A lot of them are minority owners, or they're coming in as groups and owning. It's the heritage, it's the fandom, it's the culture that is around these clubs, right? Like I interviewed JJ Watt at the end of last season, shortly after he joined at Burnley, and he was just like, there's so much history in the league and in the English soccer pyramid, and with this club, I wanted to be a part of it and do my part to help grow it. And then with that history, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because then you have the fans who are like, whoa, who is this outsider coming in? And we've built up this kind of brand equity for the last 100+ years, and now we have an American football player. This is a different kind of football, and this guy just wants to come in and be part of our community. But with Wrexham and Ryan and Rob and everything they're doing, they're so immersed in the community, and they're shining a spotlight on the community through Welcome to Wrexham, which won 8 primetime Emmys, I think, or something like it's from a production value and storytelling and all that. It's amazing. No one heard of this club until these guys bought it and made a television show about it. And now they've won 3 consecutive promotions. They're on the cusp of the Premier League.
Here's the thing, though. At that level of football, as you know very well, like when you're the 4th, 5th tier of English football, $1 million goes a long way. And those guys definitely have $1 million that they're actually making from the TV show, probably, and all the sponsorship deals. Remember, I think United is like their front of the jersey sponsorship. I mean, they have like some amazing sponsors that some Premier League teams might not even get close to. Like, that's the Hollywood, star power.
Listen, it's not going to hurt them. Let's just say, right? If you have a famous owner, if
Yeah.
you're Birmingham City and Tom Brady is showing up, you're not going to be like, oh man, there's going to be more people on social media talking about our club. Like, that's not a bad thing. But I think that only goes so far. If you have a famous owner, you have an American owner, and your club is struggling, they're going to be under fire. Look at Manchester United. Like, those owners are under fire year in and year out, and they're just like, people want them to sell. They don't want them to be a part of the club anymore.
We want glazed out, said we want glazed out. We want glazed out, said we want glazed out.
At the end of the day, it's what you have to deliver in the community and on the field. And I spoke to Sean Harvey at Wrexham recently as well, too, for a story around that United deal. And he said, listen, like, it gives you a bigger profile, having these guys, Deadpool and Always Sunny and all of that. But it's what you do on the field and what you do in the community that is going to pay bigger dividends. Because if you're jacking up ticket prices and you're pricing your local fans who have been there for years and decades and centuries around this club, if you're pricing them out simply because you're a famous, rich American owner, you're not going to succeed. Period. End of story. Wrexham is that outlier. J.J. Watt said, and I feel like I just keep name dropping here, but they were great interviews and they're very fitting for this subject. He said it's all about authenticity because people can see through the bullshit, and you need to be authentic and you need to be involved. And who was at soccer opening weekend? J.J. Watt was at the Espanyol match because he's a minority owner there, and then he went to the Burnley match. So he's showing up. Ryan and Rob were at the Wrexham match. If I'm not mistaken, Brady was at Birmingham. So these guys are showing up, but it's just more than showing up for the season opener with the jersey on and then, not until the end of the year.
I think that one of the reasons Wrexham is getting bigger and more famous is this underdog story of like a small team winning and going up the ladder is a great, movie script, but also brings more fan to the stadium. You know how many people that actually Wrexham fans in the United States, they've never watched a soccer game. They're just there for the storyline. It's like what most American soccer fans are. They're casual fans who are looking for an interesting storyline to identify with and get behind it and wear the colors. And we all love that story. We all love a small guy kicking the big guy's ass.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't love a club that's backed by millionaire, famous people, the small guys taking on the other famous rich people, the David versus Goliath story. But going back to your point, yes, we all love a story, right? Look at Drive to Survive and Formula One and the crazy growth that we had with that sport over here, where you might not get people tuning in to the Grand Prix in Australia or Japan or Singapore or wherever, but they're gonna watch the show every time it comes out on Netflix. And call them casuals, call them newbies, call them whatever you want, but there is room for these types of fans in F1, in soccer, in golf, in whatever sport you want to talk about, and that's how you grow these sports, right? Because if I'm a Wrexham fan because I was born there and I'm a diehard and I go to the stadium and do all that stuff, you already have me, right? You have my money. You know I'm going to get the kit. You know I'm going to tune in on weekends and go to the matches and do all that. But how do you grow the game? You get the little kids who watch on FX or who watch on whatever, and I want this kid, or I love Deadpool. I want to follow this team because of it. So it's like, how many people are now Birmingham City fans because of Tom Brady? He has no connection to Birmingham. He's an investor there, and now he's bringing in his audience, and I'm sure he's going to bring in his friends and do all these other things. That it's only going to help because he's invested in it, so why isn't he going to want to help grow his investment?
Okay, but I'm going to be like the devil's advocate here. These kind of investors, from a fan perspective, from like the real fans who are, lifelong, they never see their team win, but they keep coming to the stadium. I think they look at it with maybe slight suspicion that like what happens when these guys, pump and dump. Let's say for Wrexham example, the team valuation definitely goes from $0 that they paid, goes up to like hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they sold it to, let's give a, very not so random example, like a sovereign wealth fund. Without the famous owners, do you think that team will survive and stay and keep being popular? Or it will just be, a money turning machine where real fans will be neglected because now they cannot even afford to have a seat at the stadium. A lot of fans are afraid that their fandom will have to end or shift or change because they won't be able to attend and watch their own home games if these teams are getting more valuable and more expensive. Like, they cannot change the price of the beer or the pint inside a stadium if they really want to protect these guys. But then their investment is meaningless if they're not making more money out of it. Every person is a dollar sign at this business. How much money you're going to spend when you're inside my stadium is a very American way of looking at this sport.
Yeah. But again, I think it depends, right? Like if we're just talking hypothetically, if whoever the owner is, whether it's a sovereign wealth fund or if it's an famous American, whatever, they do have a choice of, okay, I've come in, I've spent X, Y, and Z money. Do I now increase ticket prices? Do I increase concessions and all of those things? And a lot of clubs have come out recently and said, hey, no, we're not going to, because I know fans were concerned about that. And the big thing too was the Super League, right, a few years ago, where that was completely anti-fan, where you had the biggest clubs in the world were like, yeah, great, we want to play against each other. Like, forget about the Champions League. Like, we wouldn't be in the Super League. And the fans are like, well, what about us? Like, you'd be nothing without us, right? Like, imagine if every single fan, the millions of people around the world of Manchester United, for example, said, we're going to boycott this club because you're pricing us out of tickets, out of merchandise, out of all of these things. The club wouldn't be anything. You're nothing without your fans. That is the number one commodity, because that leads to the other commodity of actual money. So you need to find that balance of, okay, I put money into this investment. How do I start bringing money back and making more money off of this investment without alienating the people who are fueling this investment and this club? You have to find a balance where you don't alienate your most important
loyal
group and loyal, right? You have to reward people for their loyalty. And that's where that authenticity piece comes in, right? That I said, JJ Watt, he's like, people can sniff out the bullshit. You need to be authentic. Yeah. You need to show them you are as invested in this club, in this community, in this town, in this league, as much as they are. Because they might not have a financial stake in it, and you do, but what they've put into this club might be more valuable than the millions of dollars that you did as an investor.
Yeah. So I think we can say the smartest owners are not only those who bought cheap and are planning on staying long term and making sure the club is on and off the pitch successful, but also those who are actually thinking deeply about what the real loyal fan base expects from them. And I think whoever really can balance two acts like that and be like, how can I really make money and commercialize my new investment without hurting the loyal fan base?
Exactly. Yeah. Change is obviously scary. Everyone thinks change is negative. Nobody likes change. But there are potentially areas of improvement. The biggest thing for me, maybe I'm biased because I'm American, and you tell me otherwise. I'd obviously love to hear your perspective on this too. But there's the concern over the Americanization of soccer, right? Like, sports in the U.S. is entertainment. And don't tell me they're not everywhere else, but I get when you go to a match in England or Turkey or Germany and you show up and you have a meal and then you watch the match and you go home. In the U.S., take the NFL, for example, you show up, you have a tailgate, you do this, you go to the game, there's a halftime performance, there's a flyover, there's all of this. And I know so many people were up in arms over, oh my God, there's going to be a concert at halftime of the Club World Cup final. How on earth will I ever survive? What did it extend the halftime by? 10 minutes? Go get another beer. Go to the bathroom. You'll survive. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So, again, maybe I'm biased because I see it in the NFL, NBA, and all these other sports that are as much music and fashion and culture as they are sport and entertainment. So you tell me, from an international perspective, is there a concern over this Americanization when it comes to soccer of, oh my God, there's going to be all of these other complementary things and distractions, cheerleaders, all of these different things that might affect the actual on-field product? Are people going to be that upset about it? Or is it just the small minority, which happens to be the loudest, complaining about it?
I don't know. I think there was a lot of people complaining, all the foreigners that I was speaking with, foreign journalists and fans, about the halftime shows, about the Reds get ready to rumbles, or, players coming to the pitch one by one, and are they really hurting the product? Listen, I'm not I wouldn't say I'm not for the change in that case. I mean, why fix it if it's not broken? There's a great product. This is how it's played for hundreds of years. Like you said at the beginning of the show, before perhaps some of the American cities even existed. So why do we have to change it? Why can't we keep it authentic, but also bring, some of the savvy, smart ideas to make especially smaller clubs more commercially viable, and they're not going bankrupt, and they're being relegated because of financial problems. So we don't have to change everything to make it ours. We can keep it authentic, keep those loyal fan bases, but we can teach a few things because we know better how to do it, from a business perspective. And I think that's my 2 cents. And that's why I felt like the real smart owner will be the person who can balance this act.
And I think that's the rub, that these international owners who are coming into these more traditional leagues and entities and saying, hey guys, I'm the new kid on the block, I now own your team, I'm in charge, and everyone's like, well, who are you and why are you changing all of these things? You need to find that balance where you are prioritizing the fan as much as you're prioritizing the bottom line.
Well, thank you for listening to us, people. I think we can go again hours and hours talking about this, but send us your opinions, your take on it. And do you think we should change the sport? What should change? What should stay?
Please subscribe, share, listen, comment.
Yeah, and we need to eat, so find us a sponsor if you can.
And it's my birthday, so buy me stuff.
Yeah, get him some gifts. He needs some gifts, at least some words of love and compassion. Happy birthday to our dear Michael, and can't wait to have you all together again next week.
Do we have TikTok? I don't think we have a TikTok.
I don't. Why do we have Facebook?
Why? Why not? Because that's where the older crowd is. We don't.
Yeah,
we don't
your crowd, your people.
My people. Wow.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on social on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube
for more football business and our enlightened opinions.
This episode was produced by co-hosts Asli, Pelit, and Michael LoRé. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamet Tsunami. Our show is executive produced by Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.